Hi everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and start it. I did my article on one based in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and this study took place in 2017. They just studied a program that they had created called Programo Compasso. An SEL, social emotional learning curriculum in a low income, high conflict setting. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to try to answer the questions. Okay, so this was a classroom based curriculum. I'll go more into it right now. It was identifying culture, timing, government support, and stability. It was based in a low-income conflict affected settings, and the importance of it. Overall importance of this study was being able to work with their ministers and the government to be able to implement this curriculum into the schools. I guess it works a little bit different, maybe just kind of similar to America, but a little bit different. Their government had a lot of say-so on the programs that were being taught in the schools. And so the importance of this was being able to build proactive partnerships with those people in charge. This was a qualitative research and investing in their adaptations. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next question. Who does the program serve? Describe the sample being used in the evaluation. So the program served, it was studying, used 3,018 students from 3rd and 5th graders. So 90 third graders and 90 5th graders. Well, that doesn't, I'm calculating. I'm like, no, that doesn't calculate to that amount of students. But that's what it said in the article. So those grade levels took place in this part in the evaluation, and the evaluation looked like it was a curriculum, an SEL curriculum that teachers would report of student behavior problems, and they would administer direct assessments, so direct lessons, direct teachings, lesson plans of these of this curriculum. And give me one moment real quick. Okay. Describe the evaluation. So how is it being conducted? The research design was qualitative. It was being conducted. The teachers did a survey, and then the teachers did the survey on the behavior reports that they were indicating in the classroom, and then the students were able to take assessments on their executive functions and emotional knowledge. And the results in the end, they showed no average impact over a year, but then after a while they did observe a small progress on students when they would label their emotional expression. And let me go to the next part. Okay, let me go back to over here, to describe evaluation and how it was conducted. So the program implemented randomized controls. So like how I said, they got a group, 90 primary schools across Brazil in 2017, and the Programo Compacto was a universal school-wide SEL curriculum, and it included 22 weekly 50-minute lessons. They were delivered, the teachers delivered these lessons to the students in their classrooms by the teachers. The lessons were scripted, so kind of like a lot of schools do have a scripted curriculum. In mine, we don't have one, but let me go back to this article, because I know that Idea Public Schools has a scripted curriculum, so maybe it could be like similar to that. So the lessons were delivered to students by classroom teachers. Oh yes, I said that already. Scripted lessons, so which included direct instructions and the following topics, which were emotional knowledge, so students being able to be aware of their emotions, self-regulation, executive functions, empathy, and social problem-solving strategies. And then they would follow up by doing activities, games, and using different types of materials to implement these lessons. The next part, number 4, major results. What did the evaluation find of effective of the program? Okay, so let me come back over here. So the major results were, I kind of want to jump ahead to number 5 about the limitations, because it kind of does tie into this. So the results were that that over 1 year period, they did not notice much improvement. But going back a few years later, they did notice how students would start labeling, not labeling, but how the program impacted students' emotional expressions and their ability to control their emotions. Okay, and now going back into this part here. So the overall, what did the evaluation find of effective program? Another thing, I'm going to go into number 5, where it talks about the limitations and the strengths of this article, this study. A few of the limitations were, because it ties into this one, were that they found were the culture, timing, and the government supply and stability. So these 3 areas had a lot of effect on the program and it being endorsed and implemented in the schools across Brazil, because one, the culture in Brazil, they're very culturally influenced, so a lot of the students would adhere, kind of go with their values. So if they which is true for many cultures, I believe, they kind of stick to their values and what they're taught, and because they respect their culture. So this goes into how the Brazilians would adhere to their values. And then number 2, timing. So the study helped major political and value. Okay, the study happened during a time when there is a major political changes happening in Brazil and a lot of violence was occurring. The article did mention that Brazil was one of the highest countries with violence, but it also did mention that when they did this study, there was a time where it was occurred during that time when, I'm assuming that in 2017 it was a higher percentage of violence happening with the political world and issues that were happening in their time in their country. And number 3 was the government supplies and stability, support and stability. So like how I had mentioned at the beginning, that a lot of an issue was that the officials, administrators had influence over the rollout of this program. So they had very much a say-so on what was being taught in the schools. I'm assuming kind of like TEA and then the National Board of Education. But I'm not really sure how, I'm just being honest, I'm not sure how their education system works over there in Brazil. But this is what it says here in the article, that the officials had a lot of say-so in this program and it being able to be conducted in the classroom. Let me go to number 5. It talks about strengths and limitations. The limitation would be that the authors did acknowledge in the beginning when they were introducing this program, that they acknowledged their points were very speculating and that they needed to be confirmed with further research. So that's just saying that this is the research that they had done, and it is a little weak, and it could be used to study again, or to conduct a second research with this research. I also think, well, I don't want to give my opinion because we're supposed to do it on this, but this could be a good foundation to do further research, and then maybe they could, even after they have done more research within this program in this country, maybe they could perhaps try to use it in different countries and so on. But another limitation was that throughout this period, the student attendance was very low. They had budget limitations, and so just with that, with student attendance being low and their budget limitations, they couldn't really get detailed data, because it did occur over 1 year. So I think that going back to maybe do it again in a different time period, maybe now that their government is a little different, and time has passed almost nearly 10 years, maybe they could try doing this research again, and then maybe lengthening it, giving more, and then studying within the study, trying to do evaluating their data and putting the into little categories what they find, perhaps based on age and gender and so on, and then maybe cultural background and things like that. And you could do a lot with that data. They just need more time, and they need students to be there, attendance. So I feel like maybe with the attendance being low, maybe lengthening their program would be able to get more accurate results, since over time students will continue to go. Okay, and my experience with an SEL program, so in my district, we don't have one, and I know this is something that I'm really passionate about, that I do want kids to have access to, because this is something that a lot of kids go through things. I feel like, especially nowadays with social media, like in the discussion we did the other week, that social media is just really middle school. I'm teach elementary, but even elementary is hard for them. But middle school and high school, once they get to those grades, it's just really hard in general. Before all this social media, there was a lot of bullying and eating disorders and so on. So it's very important for kids to have access to this kinds of programs. And I just hope and pray that we're able to give that to them as, adults in their life, that we're able to do this for them and help them. I think this would be really good for them. But anyways, my experience is that we don't have anything like this in our campus, in our district, which I wish we would. And I was saying in the other class for this week's discussion that we have a lot of cases of bullying this year on my campus in the upper grades. I teach pre-K, but a lot of the counselor's time is spent doing non-counselor duties, which that's why it's important to have these programs in place. But also, what am I saying? I forgot what I was saying. Is that, yes, we have a lot of bullying going on in our upper grades this year, and I feel this kind of program would be perfect for the kids to have in their to have access to, and be given this opportunity to. But that's my experience with an SEL program. But on another note, I guess you can kind of relate it. It's kind of similar a little bit. That's my most connection that I have with kind of like an SEL program. When I had worked in Corpus in my first year teaching, I taught first grade, and that was during COVID. And but one thing I just remember is that in the beginning of the school year, we had a training, and this was a full day training with the people from the organization, and it was called Capturing Kids' Hearts. I'm sure others have heard of it. So you would just do just explain different activities that we could do, and the importance of being able to reach the students' hearts, and just going above and beyond for the kids, and trying to reach them in everything that's going on in the school day, just to try to find different ways to incorporate either activities or little mini lessons or little prizes and things like that, to be able to try to capture the kids' hearts. And I feel this was the most social emotional kind of program I've ever had experience with. But I'll go ahead and stop here. I mean, there's a lot more information, but I just tried to condense the video because I didn't want it to be too long. But I thought overall this was an interesting article, and I would love to have some type of article like this. I mean, not article, some type of program like this on my school district, in our campus. But I'll stop here, and thank you all for watching. See you next week.